Joe Biden would have you believe that he gets that a war on democracy is happening and he is going to be your ally in fighting against this Republican-led effort. In a fiery speech in Philadelphia last week, he warned that the GOP effort was the quote, most significant test of our democracy since the Civil War. But if you've been watching this show and you know my sarcasm tone, you know that this is not a positive thing about Joe Biden, because unfortunately, while he's been giving a couple of good speeches, there's still a lot of reason to be concerned that he's not going to take it seriously and he's not going to do what's necessary to stop the Republicans from effectively taking away your vote. Voting rights advocates around the country fear that the Biden administration, currently focused on a bipartisan infrastructure deal and an ambitious spending proposal, has largely accepted the Republican restrictions on voting as baked in and is now dedicating more of its effort to juicing Democratic turnout. And to that end, they've been putting some pressure on him. We're gonna get to that in a second, this letter that went out. But I wanna show to you the worst sentence of the week. This is coming from the New York Times. In private calls with voting rights groups and civil rights leaders, White House officials and close allies of the president have expressed confidence that it is possible to, quote, out-organize voter suppression, according to multiple people familiar with the conversations. And I'm not mad at the New York Times on that. I'm mad at everyone else that made that sentence possible, because that sucks so much. You're gonna out-organize it. Oh, I see, around the country, they're making it so the people can't vote or it's as difficult as possible. They're specifically targeting certain populations. If you're a non-white voter, good luck in a lot of these states, but don't even worry about it. You guys can just organize around it. Brett, that blows so bad.
This is really gonna appeal to the Marie Kondo voter. The like, does this voter suppression spark joy? If not, organize around it. Nobody in their right, like this drips with stupid, like, everyone take your shoes off and keep your socks on and sit in a circle on the carpet. Let's brainstorm ideas for messaging in the Democratic Party. Like, that's the BS. Like, 4 people are tasked with this. None of them have met human beings besides each other before. And they're like, wouldn't that be great? We can out-organize voter suppression, run with that. Who is rah-rah, sis boom bah excited about that kind of messaging? The answer is no one.
No one. It's terrible. And look, some ask for comment afterwards, say, well, that's just one of the things that we said. That's not like totally our message or whatever, but you're not doing anything. So I am gonna judge you by the things you say on these calls. And here is the thing about that sentence, the worst sentence of the week. It's not even that in all cases, it can't be true. I mean, after all, thanks to years of amazing organization and activism in Georgia, these 2 Senate seats were won. So that's true. But even in that case, it was such a narrow thing. And I'll remind you, it's more difficult to vote today than it was a year ago in Georgia. So unlikely that organizing would have prevailed with the current system. And much more importantly, the reason they do the suppression is to make it as difficult as possible. And so in many places, no, you're not gonna be able to out-organize it. But that's not even the worst thing. Even if it was true, even if that wasn't a horrible passing of the Democratic buck, wouldn't it be easier to win if you had the great organizing and you weren't suppressed? Why are you surrendering on something so goddamn fundamental? Something that you, again, in speeches pretend that you care about, but you're willing to throw to other people. Really easy to say you can out-organize it when you're not the person that's gonna have to be doing that. That you're not the person that has been doing that. Joe Biden wasn't on the ground 3 years ago in Georgia, whatever, laying that groundwork. He wasn't going to the churches every weekend trying to make sure that people were excited to vote. None of his aides were either. It wasn't them. So yes, no matter how bad Biden or the Republicans screw over these organizers, they're gonna keep trying as hard as they can. But shouldn't they be able to expect that the president they got elected would at least give them a bit of an assist along the way? It's just, it's so bad.
Another thing that is very important to mention about why this is such a dumb idea is that many of the best organization efforts around voting are explicitly themselves tactically targeted by these new voter restrictions.
Yeah.
So the thing where you send someone around and you get souls to the polls, all of that is directly under attack. All of the tactics that have been developed as a result of voter suppression since the Civil War that he's talking about, these have the ones that have worked are being shot down explicitly due to these new laws that they're putting into effect in all these different states. And at the same time, bolstered by this horrible sentence, or bolstering this issue, is Biden and company not doing the things, organizing, I guess, legislatively to overcome these new voting laws, right? Like, there's a lot that they really need to do that they haven't done to fight that. And that's what's also frustrating. And I'm not saying, I don't even think they should, quote, get rid of the filibuster. I think they need to bring back the filibuster.
Yeah,
because right now the way that cloture works is no one's going to talk about anything unless you invoke cloture, you do a cloture vote. It has not, and then after that, people talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. I think you force them to talk for hours and hours, and then you have a vote. Period. That's it. That's how the original that's how like the second generation of filibuster was.
Yeah, and we're in like the fifth or whatever. And they've said that they support that. Even Manchin has said at times that he supports that and then forgets. Like, and it's just so insulting.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.